With the way injuries are piling up in fantasy football, we have to have players to pivot to. So here are some buys that you can add to your fantasy football team. We're going to start with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones was quite good in week 1 before he got hurt. And yes, you could say that's a tiny sample size. Yeah, it is a tiny sample size, actually.
Yep.
And there's reason to worry about Jones. So we'll be the first to tell you guys that. Jones tried to come back in week 4 and was pretty freaking inefficient in his limited snaps. And you're looking at the game against Detroit. 5 carries for 18 yards, he had 3.6 yards per carry. He didn't have a touchdown. He had 1 reception on 2 targets for -4 yards. That is how you say...
Sounds like a screenplay gone wrong.
Terrible.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. Then in week 5, it was thought that Jones was going to play until the morning of the game. He was ruled out. So now we're looking at Aaron Jones through 5 weeks of the season, 6 weeks of the season. We're like, he hasn't really done anything for us. I think a lot of people that have Aaron Jones on their fantasy team are looking at Aaron Jones and being like, you worthless piece of crap. And I think you should go trade for that piece of crap because he is not worthless. He is a very good football player that has very, very high upside for contending teams in fantasy football. He is playing on Green Bay, probably the most cautious team in the league with injuries. We need to understand that first. They regularly hold their players back when it's a close call. I mean, I think you saw this last week. I think that's why he didn't play. If it were a different team, Jones being held out of week 5 would bring huge fears of a massive setback, but we're not actually worried about that with Aaron Jones. It's still possible that he could have that. He is old, and that's something. But with it being Green Bay, it's possible that they just didn't quite like how he looked in week 4, and then they decided to hold him out, knowing that the bye week was coming up. So remember Keenan Allen last year. You can have a nagging hamstring injury for half the year and then get healthy and light it up in the second half of the year. We've seen this happen. I mean, although hamstrings are bad for old guys, we have seen this happen in the same year. So if the team with Aaron Jones in your league has found a good replacement for him in the last 5 weeks, then go get Aaron Jones because they might not need him anymore. And make sure to play up how strange the Jones injury situation has been the last few weeks. And I just want to say, because we give you these negotiating tactics, like, play up. Let's play this. Hey, I'm going to trade for Aaron Jones because his injury situation has been super weird. And then people say, well, why would I trade him to you? Why do you want him? And I would say, well, I'm just willing to take on that risk. Or, well, it seems you found a replacement for him. I need depth. I mean, there are 1,000 things you could say if your league mate says that to you, but instead people want to be like, nobody's going to believe that. Yeah, they will. Yes, they will.
Go and try.
Go try something like that. It is amazing.
Yeah.
Go trade for Aaron Jones.
Yeah, another guy that we think you should at least try and go get at the moment in fantasy is Amari Cooper. Cooper managers have been spooked by how strange the Deshaun Watson injury news has been the last couple weeks, and that includes me, don't really know when Watson is going to be back. It could be next week. It could be multiple weeks. Honestly, this is oddly reminiscent of Andrew Luck's shoulder injury, just the way that he's been acting.
Shut up.
Not saying Deshaun Watson is being like that at all. I'm just saying it's been very hush-hush, and honestly, the whole team has been like, hey, this is up to you, man, when you want to come back, because it's pretty much him holding himself out. When you're looking at the situation here, while some may feel better about Cooper's week 6, others may see it as a sign to get out while you can, because even though he had a solid week playing without Deshaun Watson, playing with P.J. Walker, scoring 14 points, you're looking at that game log and you're saying, oh, he's not getting 25 yards per catch again. He's not putting up 108 yards with 4 receptions again. And I would agree with you. I actually don't think that's sustainable. I think anyone that says that's sustainable or possible again is crazy. Like, some of the highest yards per reception guys of last season were Jalen Waddle with like 19 yards per reception consistently, and it took a Tyreek Hill for him to do that, and he had to do that with a lot less volume. While we don't think PJ Walker's good, he's okay enough to at least give Cooper a chance in most games, and that's why we're still going to be in on investing in Amari Cooper, because while a lot of people are going to look at that game log against San Francisco and want to get out on Amari Cooper, maybe even at a discount, we think you should be one of those people that are buying Amari Cooper. Without Nick Chubb, the Browns have to have impact plays from Cooper, so his target share should remain pretty much the same. It should be pretty strong. Pretty high-end wide receiver 2 level strong without Deshaun Watson. And overall, the Browns have the Colts, Seahawks, and the Cardinals the next 3 weeks. So Cooper's buy window is going to shut real fast. Don't look at the past, look at the future for a wide receiver as talented as Amari Cooper, and check out those matchups and tell me with a serious face that you actually think Amari Cooper will not produce against those teams.
Isiah Pacheco is going to be the next guy on this list, and we weren't super high on Isiah Pacheco coming into this year, admittedly. He was considered a player with limited ceiling. So what has changed with Isiah Pacheco? Last year in 20 combined regular season and playoff games, he had exactly 2 games with 3 targets or more. This year, he's already had 4 of those games. Looking at his target log, 6, 1, 3, 3, 2, and 4. That's good. We like that. I mean, you saw McKinnon take that role last year for the Chiefs, and they've been pretty comfortable giving Pacheco both work on the ground and in the passing game. That's good. Pacheco already has more catches and more receiving yards this year than he had all of last year. Already. That is a role change. That is increased responsibility. That is a second-year player getting more work and getting more trust. That is good for fantasy football. And when you add that to the fact that he's had 4 straight games with 15 or more carries, that's some impressive. I mean, that's dang near workhorse volume in today's NFL.
Yeah. And this is coming from people who were low on Pacheco all off season and really for the first 4 weeks of the year. And we were wrong.
Yeah. And Pacheco coming off 4 straight double-digit fantasy games, we know that's not a buy low. This isn't necessarily a buy low. This is just a buy. You don't need to buy every single player low. See, Adam Thielen performing like crazy. He's still a buy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the offseason perception that Pacheco's ceiling is very limited may still keep his price lower than it should be. I think there are a lot of people that still look at Chiefs offense running backs and be like, but you should trust him as a stable option going forward. And running backs, the around the league, the position in fantasy football, it is a crap show right now.
Yeah.
Pacheco has actually been a stable force there in a running back environment where you see hardly any consistent production because of injuries, because of situational changes, bad teams. It's been wild. Pacheco's been good. He's not a buy low, but he is a buy for us. We're going to go add him to our teams in fantasy football.
Yeah, tight end has been such a crapshoot this season that you may not even have to pay much to go get Dalton Schultz. If anything at all, you might just get him off waivers if you're lucky. But overall, I mean, we're looking for Dalton Schultz as a potential throw-in and a bigger trade that you're going to be making overall. With Schultz, he was often dropped, at least benched in most leagues when he had 7 catches for 47 yards in the first 3 weeks combined. That was not what we were looking for this offseason. We were optimistic about Schultz producing in Houston's offense with CJ Stroud, and we looked like the laughingstock of the fantasy community for the first 3 weeks. Now it's starting to come to fruition a little bit. Week 4 brought his first touchdown in of the season on 3 catches, which wasn't great. We're like, okay, that's kind of a joke. That's kind of fluky. And then in the last 2 weeks, he's caught 11 balls for 126 yards and 2 more touchdowns.
Doesn't sound fluky to me.
Okay, so which Dalton Schultz are we going to get for the rest of the season? If we were betting individuals, if someone gave us $1,000 and we had to put all of that money on Dalton Schultz not producing or producing for the rest of the year, I think we would say he's probably going to produce. And maybe it won't be as good as this and as consistent as this for the rest of the season, but I think he'll probably finish as a mid tight end 1. Is that really saying much? No. Tight end is horrible past Travis Kelce. It is. We thought Hawkinson was relevant this year, and he hasn't been for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Maybe he'll come around, but outside of that, man, you've got no one. Mark Andrews can't do anything. George Kittle, inconsistent. Kyle Pitts getting outproduced by Jonnu Smith. I mean, Dalton Schultz could be better than all of those guys for the rest of the year. This is the perfect time to buy Schultz. Why? Because it's his bye this week. Teams are already scrambling to replace him. They're trying to decide if they want to carry 2 tight ends in a week with 6 buys. If you're struggling at tight end, that answer should be yes. Yes. Hold on to Dalton Schultz if you have him. Go invest in him. Go get him off waivers if you don't have him. If you're struggling at tight end, please get him. Schultz's target share in the Houston offense and use in the red zone should put him a level above your random streaming tight end, above guys like Logan Thomas, above guys like maybe Michael Mayer if you have to, above Luke Musgrave, Jonnu Smith, etc. Now, you shouldn't pay very much for him. Like we said, there are very few tight ends you should really pay anything for. But Schultz, as an afterthought a couple of weeks ago, it is no longer an afterthought. He is actually a relevant guy that you can be starting consistently for the rest of the season.
So we did say that the targets would come around for Devonta Smith eventually. And it did. They were great. He had 11 targets this week.
Yep.
But the Eagles' offense was so bad
that they lost to the Jets.
And the production didn't come with 11 targets because he only brought in 5 of them. He only had 44 yards. He had no touchdowns. Yes, it is fairly concerning how bad the Eagles' offense is, given how big that is for fantasy implications. Last year, Devonta Smith crushed it in the fantasy playoffs. With the Eagles having the Seahawks, the Giants, and the Cardinals in the fantasy playoffs this year, he has a chance to do that again. Those are 3 teams that are giving up a lot of points to fantasy wide receivers right now. After 3 out of 4 single-digit efforts, fantasy managers may be panicking on Devonta Smith. That's exactly. I love it when people panic on players. I love it. I love it. And we do that sometimes.
Yeah.
But
like with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, yeah, but that's different, though. You may be able to get wide receiver 3 price for Devonta Smith. And I'm not kidding. Because right now, people who are starting Devonta Smith are like debating whether to start him in a flex or not. How do I know this? Because I answer a trillion start-sit questions every week, and I know what people are thinking. So, if you do get him that cheap, if somebody really is panicking on Devonta Smith, for the rest of the season, we're going to project him a lot higher than wide receiver 3, probably like high-end wide receiver 2. We still believe in him. He's still good. That Eagles offense will get better. We believe in him. We think you should go buy him for your fantasy team.
Yeah. Romeo Doubs is another guy we think you should be buying right now. He had a poor week 5 along with the rest of the Packers offense. The rest of the offense, okay? This wasn't just Romeo Doubs, and they went into their bye week after that game. It's been a long time since people have seen Romeo Doubs perform, and what does that mean? That means there's a value dip. That means there's a discount on Romeo Doubs. He's another guy that you could potentially get as a throw-in when he was a highly sought-after waiver pickup in the first few weeks of the year. Now, maybe some people are even considering dropping him. I saw someone in our YouTube comments try and crap on us after he had a bad game against Vegas and said, you guys said sprint to go get Romeo Doubs off waivers. Yeah, we're saying it again. Go sprint and get Romeo Doubs off waivers if that's even possible. Oh, and by the way, it's not.
Did somebody really do that?
It's not. Yeah, someone tried to dog on us
He had
for
one
saying
bad game.
One bad game. One bad game. And everyone on Green Bay had a bad game.
Gosh.
We still love the trust that Love was showing in him in weeks 3 and 4, pun intended. We think he still has a chance to be the most targeted player in that offense. I will stand by that. I believe that. I think he's going to out-target Christian Watson for the rest of the year. With people not trusting Doubs to start the year, and then the poor performance and bye week, Doubs is likely available for very, very, very cheap. We're not just pulling this out of our butts, guys. Like, he is throw-in caliber, if that. People are going to be scared of Watson's return. People are going to be scared of Watson improving and getting more target share. And that just means more of a discount for Romeo Doubs. We've never thought Watson will be a giant target hog in that offense because he's such a good deep threat. He's all right at getting contested catches and stuff on the outside, but Doubs is just leaves so much room for players like Doubs, even Jaden Reed for emergency start situations. I know you and I have had to start Jaden Reed every once in a while in our fantasy leagues, and it worked out a couple times. And you don't have to even start Doubs if you get him. He's a great player to stash for cheap and see what happens. I mean, what are you losing out on if you invest in Doubs? Nothing. You can just cut him week 12.
That's such a cheap buy. Trade one of your like borderline waiver guys.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Guys we told you not to waiver early in the season, like Marvin Mims, who hasn't done anything since we told you. Oh, or maybe like Tank Dell, who hasn't done anything in a couple weeks now.
Yep.
Maybe trade one of those guys for Romeo Doubs because I'm more confident in Romeo Doubs than I am of those guys.
Yes.
I think Romeo Doubs is a rosterable fantasy player, and those guys are borderline waivers. But those are our buys for this week. So please do us a huge favor. Drop a thumbs up on the video because it helps us out a ton. And thank you for straightening out your thumb because you were like this. And make sure you subscribe. If you play fantasy football and if you enjoy Nathan's thumb, we really appreciate you subscribing. We're going to have fantasy football content all year round. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining us. Peace.